At the dinner, my boyfriend echoed others mocking me, leaving me utterly embarrassed. But his brother aggressively drove away the mean girl and silently protected me. This contrast made me completely fall for him, and my feelings for my boyfriend faded entirely. This booth is way too small. Or maybe it's just that Asher Blake is sitting less than an inch away from me. His body heat is intense enough to bake a whole batch of cookies right between us. He hasn't touched me, not even brushed against me. He's just there. Heavy, utterly still. That solidity feels almost aggressive, as if he's filling every bit of the air around him. I shift my body slightly, but it does nothing to help. On the contrary, it makes me feel him even more acutely. The heat radiating off him is like a furnace set too high, burning him from the inside out. Is this how he always is? Or is he angry? Maybe it's both. The rush of blood in my ears, the heavy thud of my own pulse echoing through my body, it's almost as if I can't hear my own thoughts at all. And the din of the restaurant, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, people shouting over the music, buzzes against my skin like static electricity. Across the table, Rebecca twirled a strand of hair around her finger, her eyes glancing dismissively at my plate. Her voice was sickeningly sweet, yet beneath its sugary surface lurked a sharp, poisoned edge. She wore an air of deliberate innocence as she said, "Wow, Penelope's actually eating something this time? I thought you were always so quiet. Maybe you're just too shy to open your mouth in front of others." My hand, holding the slice of pizza, froze midair. The words sounded casual and light, yet they cut through me with a precision that left no room for the echo to fade before it struck home. Taylor, completely oblivious to the venom in her tone, leaned in closer with a laugh that seemed almost relieved, nodding along in agreement. "Now that you mention it, that's kind of true." His voice was carefree and lighthearted, as if he'd just discovered some shared inside joke. But really, Penny can eat like a bottomless pit. Last time after the show, she ate more by herself than all three of us guys combined. I blinked hard, trying to shake off the sting. "Please, just stop. Just shut up." Taylor continued mercilessly, completely oblivious, even turning to the others for confirmation. "Seriously, you guys haven't seen her gobble down food like there's no tomorrow. She could eat enough to take down an entire team. Remember that time she single-handedly polished off an entire Meat Lover's pizza? The grease was all over her lips, and I honestly thought she was going to burst." Several people joined in with perfunctory, shrill laughter. Zoe even set down her drink and wiped her mouth with a napkin, letting out a sneer as if she'd just spotted something disgusting. "Oh my gosh, just thinking about that scene is suffocating. Penny, don't you ever worry about eating so much that you won't be able to fit into your pretty dresses anymore?" My cheeks felt burning hot, the heat spreading from my collarbone all the way up to the base of my ears, so intense that I felt like I could see it even in space. Carefully, I put down my slice of pizza, pretending not to feel like I was being torn apart inside. Asher didn't move a muscle, yet his fingertips quietly clenched into a fist beneath the table, his knuckles turning pale. He didn't smile. Not even his breathing seemed to have grown deliberately softer. Only a fleeting chill flickered in the depths of his eyes, precisely catching every hint of my embarrassment. There he sat right beside me, a massive, searing wall of tension, his body unconsciously tilted slightly, subtly shielding me from the mocking stares around us. Somehow, this silent protection made me feel even more at a loss, because I knew he'd heard every word, and he'd seen right through my discomfort. "Maybe she's just shy," Rebecca said sweetly, still twirling her hair. Leaning forward, she now turned her attention directly to Asher. "I bet you're shy too, aren't you, Asher? Maybe you just need someone to help you relax a little." Her eyelashes fluttered so wildly that it was a miracle she didn't take off like a helicopter. I lowered my head and stared at my plate, wishing it would just swallow me whole. Then, out of nowhere, I felt Ash move. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. The air around him seemed to condense into an invisible low-pressure zone. His voice was deep and dry, almost as if it could ignite, and every word carried an icy, unyielding hardness. "You're not my type." He looked straight at Rebecca, his eyes radiating undisguised annoyance. "Stop coming any closer." The entire table froze in an instant. For one fleeting second, a single breath's worth, no one dared to move. Then Joe let out a low whistle and muttered, "Ouch." Even Taylor lifted his head, his eyebrows arching in surprise. Rebecca blinked rapidly, as if she'd been slapped across the face. She quickly composed herself, giving a fake smile and tossing her perfectly styled hair. "Don't be silly. I'm exactly the type everyone loves." Ash didn't even glance at her again. He shifted slightly, turning toward me as if she weren't worth another second of his attention. My chest felt like it was being squeezed tight. For a fleeting moment, I found myself struggling to breathe. I could feel him right beside me, the warmth radiating from him, the solid curve of his shoulder level with my own head, as if I were standing next to a roaring campfire. It was too intense, too overwhelming, too real. I dared to glance up at him briefly. All I could see was the line of his jaw, the sharp contour of his throat, and his broad shoulders beneath the dark fabric. He was closer to me than anyone else had ever been. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to look away before he noticed I'd been staring at him. "Anyway," Rebecca said cheerfully, forcing a laugh, "I guess not everyone knows how to appreciate good taste." She smiled at the table, a smile that was far too bright, far too deliberate, and then began telling a story about a party I hadn't been invited to. Laughter broke out again, but it sounded thinner now, more forced. I forced myself to pick up a slice of pizza and took a bite, but there was no flavor at all. Zoe leaned closer to Taylor once more, giggling uncontrollably at something he'd said, her hand brushing deliberately against his arm. He didn't pull away. Of course not. He probably thought it was nothing big. I picked at my pizza, feeling utterly insignificant, stupid for being so small, and hating myself for letting these things affect me. "You're awfully quiet," Asher whispered softly, so quietly that only I could hear him. As he spoke, his body shifted half an inch closer to me, blocking Zoe's scornful glance. His fingertips even brushed lightly against my arm, as if soothing a frightened little animal. I was startled and blinked rapidly. I hadn't expected him to speak to me, not here, not now. "I'm fine," I said instinctively, my voice too fast, too light-hearted. He snorted, a skeptical sound that reverberated between us, deep and resonant, like a low note I could feel more than hear. I didn't dare look at him. If I did, I might say something stupid. If I did, I might burst into tears. So I kept staring at my plate, the greasy edge of the cardboard blurring in my vision. "Don't let them get to you," Asher said, his voice now raspier yet strangely gentle, his gaze resting on the back of my clenched hand. "They're not worth letting them bother you. If it makes you uncomfortable, we can leave anytime." I gritted my teeth, my nails digging into the palm of my hand beneath the table. "I'm used to it," I said softly. "But being used to something doesn't mean it's okay," he replied. Simple. Unremarkable. As if it were perfectly obvious, as if there were no room for debate. I sat there, trying hard not to let anyone see how deeply those words had hit me. Trying hard not to reveal just how much they meant to me. Across the booth, Rebecca was still talking, Zoe was still laughing, and Tyler remained blissfully unaware. As we stumbled out of the restaurant, the air outside was crisp and biting, and laughter drifted away into the night. Tyler was still chuckling over something Joe had said, patting him on the back as if they were the funniest people in the world. Everyone was loud, a little chaotic, full from eating and drinking, brimming with energy, tinged with that late-night exhilaration. I lagged behind a few steps, my hands buried deep in my jacket pockets, watching everyone make their way toward the parking lot. First, we headed toward Zoe's car, a battered little blue hatchback with a dent in the bumper and a jumble of sparkly keychains dangling from the rearview mirror. "Bye-bye, losers," Zoe shouted, tossing her wallet onto the passenger seat and sliding into the driver's seat as if she were about to pull off a high-speed stunt in a movie. She turned the key. The engine coughed once, sputtered briefly, then died. She frowned, tried again, stomping hard on the gas pedal. More coughing, then it died once more. Joe ran over, grabbed the latch on the hood. "Open it. Let me take a look." Taylor was still laughing, leaning against her car as if all this were just part of the fun. I stood awkwardly in the background, watching Joe fumble around under the hood like he was pretending to know exactly what he was doing. Zoe gave it one more try. Still no use. Joe snorted and slammed the hood shut. It's no good. This is just awful, Zoe complained dramatically, leaning her head back against the seat. My car absolutely cannot break down now. I've got work tomorrow. An important shift. I can't walk to the salon like some country bumpkin. You don't have to walk, Taylor tried to reassure her. Just figure something out tomorrow. Maybe it's the battery, Joe suggested helpfully, though not very helpfully at all. Or maybe you don't even know what you're talking about, Zoe snapped. Joe spread his hands wide. I'm just trying to help, girl. On the other side of the parking lot, someone shouted, why don't you let that Navy guy fix it? I turned my head to look, and sure enough, Asher was leaning against Taylor's car, as if he were posing for the cover of Deeply Manly Monthly. Arms crossed, expression blank. It looked as if, push him any further, and he might just really set something on fire, with his mind. Joe waved at him. Come on, Hayes. Show us what you've got. Ash barely moved. He just lazily shrugged his shoulders and said in a deadpan voice, I know absolutely nothing about cars. But I distinctly saw a quick, sly smile flicker across the corners of his eyes, almost as if he were deliberately teasing me, or maybe just trying not to get caught up in their chatter and delay getting me home. I fought hard to keep from laughing until my stomach hurt from holding it in. After all, I'd just watched him fix Taylor's car with such ease, as if he'd been born holding a wrench in his hand. When I glanced over at him, he was already staring right back at me, the kind of stare that felt heavy, burning hot, as if he could see right through the joke I'd been holding back. It was as if he were daring me to burst out laughing. I quickly looked away, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. Zoe groaned again, dramatically slumping into the driver's seat. This is a disaster, she wailed. I'm really stuck here. It'll be fine, Taylor said casually. You can call a tow truck tomorrow. It's not the end of the world. Zoe's voice sounded as if it really were the end of the world. A few cars down the road, Jason shouted, Hey, if anyone needs a ride, I can take 3 people. Instantly, Taylor straightened up. Great. I'll give a ride to whoever's left. I didn't even have time to pray for a miracle, because, predictably, Rebecca and Zoe immediately abandoned ship, laughing hysterically as they sprinted toward Taylor's car. Why wouldn't they? Taylor tossed the keys to Ash. You want to drive? Ash caught them effortlessly with one hand. Sure, he said briefly, sharp. As if our lives or deaths on this drive didn't matter to him in the slightest. Taylor had already gotten moving, grinning as he opened the passenger side door for me. After you, Penny. I bent down and slid into the seat, my cheeks burning at the casual nickname. Then, apparently, my life really was a sitcom. Just as I was settling in, Taylor gave my butt a gentle little pat. I almost pitched forward onto the dashboard. He just grinned, climbed into the back seat behind me, and acted as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Zoe and Rebecca squeezed in after him. Zoe hadn't even fastened her seatbelt yet, and she'd practically ended up sitting right on Taylor's lap. Ash took the driver's seat, glanced over at me briefly to make sure I was settled in properly, then adjusted his seat with crisp, efficient movements. He turned the key, and the engine roared to life immediately. Of course it would start. After all, not long ago, he'd expertly fixed up Taylor's car himself. Where are we headed? He asked, his voice low and steady, glancing briefly at the rearview mirror. Rebecca gave her address first, followed shortly by Zoe. Ash nodded and smoothly pulled out of the parking lot. A tense, awkward silence settled over the car. Taylor broke the silence almost immediately, nudging Zoe's knee with his own and laughing as he told a silly story from training. I stared out the window, pretending to be fascinated by the streetlights. Next to me, Ash felt overwhelmingly large, not just physically, though he was indeed tall, but in the way he seemed to occupy every bit of air, every inch of space around him, effortlessly and without even trying. He was like a personal space heater turned up to full blast. Heat radiated slowly and steadily from him, seeping into the car and transforming the cool evening outside into something that felt like a distant memory. I shifted slightly, moving a bit closer to the car door, but it still didn't help. He was still there, burning away just as before. So, Ash, Rebecca said suddenly, leaning forward between the seats like a purposeful golden retriever, are you going to Jason's party next week? Everyone's planning to go. Ash didn't even glance at her. No way. His tone was flat, resolute. I pressed my lips together tightly, fighting back a grin. Rebecca pouted dramatically. Come on, don't be such a spoilsport. Zoe giggled. Yeah, even Penny's going. I blinked in surprise. What? I'm not really sure yet, I mumbled, but no one was paying attention. Taylor laughed and reached over to affectionately ruffle my hair. Yeah, but Penny's way more interesting than she looks. Rebecca laughed mockingly, as if he'd just told the world's funniest joke. I wanted nothing more than to melt right into my seat. The drive went on and on. The girls kept talking about clothes, parties, who was dating whom, while Taylor chuckled along, his laughter light and warm. I stayed silent, my hands tightly clasped in my lap, watching the city lights outside the window streak across the glass in long golden lines. Asher's steady presence beside me never wavered. Solid. Heavy. A silent, impossibly distant wall. A wall you might lean on if you weren't careful. Or maybe, if you got too close, it would crush you. It was hard to tell. Maybe it was both. When we finally turned onto the street where Rebecca lived, the tension in the car quietly escalated, yet no one admitted it. The girls began packing up their bags, filling the silence with louder chatter. Taylor climbed out first, then exaggeratedly and eagerly helped Zoe get out of the car. Rebecca followed behind, giving Ash a flirtatious wink before disappearing into the darkness. The car door slammed shut behind them. And, just like that, the atmosphere inside the car had changed. It felt fresher, quieter, and more tense. Now only I, Taylor, and Ash were left in the car.